Hammer?
What's going on, guys?
I'm just getting embarrassed by Kenny. That's all.
That's why it's the last show.
This is why it's the last show. Kenny continues to get fooled by Scam Sharania.
Scam Sharania. I saw it was Scam Sharania. It was the NBC that got me hyped. And I'm going on record. Opening nights on NBC. What are we talking
We were
about?
trying to figure out the Christmas Day schedule for no reason whatsoever. I think I said I was going to New York on Christmas.
Yeah, we went
or
to
around
the garden.
Christmas time, so we were just going over the schedule.
The fake schedule?
Well, the one that
we
up.
were creating our we were creating our own. But Scam Sharania tweeted the Houston Rockets at Oklahoma City Thunder, the Lakers at Clippers.
That's a good booking too, by Scams.
Huh.
Scams. Well, I mean, if you do it properly, you've got to say scams. We're going doing this right. Well, Hammer.
And for the record, it is going to be opening night on NBC.
Here we are.
Okay, so it turns out it wasn't even a secret. Sam Amick tweeted, backing up some of the things Tim Kawakami said this morning. Also, I don't want to say he backtracked a little bit because he didn't say that like the protections on the pick are the final thing, the final thing preventing a deal from Sacramento and Golden State being done. But, all of that specificness aside from our man Sam Amick, it sounds like today has been a day of a lot of posturing by the Golden State Warriors. And I was telling the guys earlier and the young ladies that that's all this is to me is posturing. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just public posturing for Scott Perry, the Kings front office, for Jonathan Kuminga and his representation, and nothing more.
Yeah, it really does feel like I don't know, like the levels of grief. Like we have all reckoning and, coming to realizations and acceptance and all that stuff. Like, look, I don't think I've seen a transaction quite like this. And it's because transactions like this don't typically happen. There usually aren't 3 or 4 sides to a story. There's usually, a player and an agent side versus a team, or there's 2 teams trying to go back and forth, but rarely do you see like the extra components in this one. And I think it's playing into it, and this started with, the Kings are super interested and here's the deal that they're offering. And like, there's so much hype right away, but clearly that's coming from somewhere on the Kings side. Like, I don't think it was Scott Perry, but somewhere on the Kings side. Then we start shifting to like sort of the recovery of, what the Warriors want. And then Jonathan Kuminga's people chime in and this is what they want. And then the Warriors chime back in that this is what they want. And then the Kings let it know that, hey, we met with the guy, and he wants to be here. And then you come back to the Warrior side. Like, this is like a never ending saga. And again, I think there is, some sort of like developments here that are quietly happening, which may or may not ever work out for the Kings. But at least you got to be in it to try to bring in a young player that has a ton of potential and that would allow one of your players to go play a more natural position and maybe clear up some of your roster imbalance and fix some of the things that are wrong with what's happening with your ball club. So it's just the process here has been extremely painful.
So James, tell me what you think about this. I believe that nobody in this situation wins if this deal doesn't get done. Not that it dooms everybody involved, but I thought it was pretty reasonable for everybody. The Warriors getting something in return for a guy like Jonathan Kuminga that they may end up losing for nothing relatively soon. The Sacramento Kings getting a young building block that they currently don't have at all. And Jonathan Kuminga getting a fresh start somewhere. And nobody's getting any of that. Matter of fact, everybody's going back to their own miserable lives. It feels like the Warriors are that's not going to work at all with Kuminga coming back to town and in that locker room. The Kings still have a log jam at the guard position, still don't have any wings, still don't have any type of young player that you feel like you can build upon or that would even fill that role of thinking that you can. And I don't see one on the horizon. Like, I don't think they're going to get this draft pick like that in this upcoming draft. So who knows when that's going to happen. And Jonathan Kuminga may not be getting the type of money that he hoped he can get or responsibility staying with the Warriors. So do you feel the same way where I feel like this deal doesn't go through and everybody loses?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I mean, that's sort of the game here. You got to hope that, that if this deal falls through, that you're working on the next one right afterwards. So yeah, I mean, Kenny, I do get your understanding here, and I don't disagree. I mean, I think this does really does help everybody if they can work something out. But at what cost? And I think that's what everybody's trying to deal with right now. Number one, Kuminga needs to realize he's not getting 25 to 30 million a year like he thought. And that's something look, I've been in this business long enough that there are agents that tell players all the time what they're going to get, and then what they think they're going to get and what they actually get are two totally different things. I mean, Rashawn Holmes is the one that comes to mind the most, which is oh, he's getting 18 to 20 a year for 4 years, and sure enough, he got $12 million a year. And that was just somebody overselling what they thought that they could accomplish. I think that there's a little bit of that in this whole deal here. But I also, again, it does kind of fit everyone's need. The Warriors need more capital, more, draft capital to go out and make trades. They also need a player who makes, 18 to 20 million bucks so they can trade for players, right? But the Kings, they need a young player, like you said, to build around. I don't fully agree with your take there. I do think that Keegan Murray is someone that you can build around. Maybe not as a primary, as a number one, but certainly as one of your base, structural pieces that can help your team grow. But still, adding a 22-year-old with all kinds of potential just makes a lot of sense. And then, I think there also has to be a realization that, number one, there's no market. There's no market for anybody. That means that there's no market for the Warriors either, who think that, they were going to get in some sort of bidding war with a Suns team that's offering 4 second-round picks that they don't have. There's all of these aspects to this transaction that don't feel great. And you're hoping that the end resolution isn't that a 22-year-old kid just wastes a year of his career, hurts his value even more, and then gets to the end of it and is either used as a trade chip or walks away for nothing and really hurts the Warriors as well. So I do think it's complicated, and I do think that that there's a pathway here, but everybody is walking a very, very thin pathway, and either the Kings or the Warriors are going to have to find a home for one of their other players. If they can figure that out, then then they're going to have to figure out what the compensation is to make that happen. And that means that, if you're the Warriors and you get back a first round pick, but then you got to go send a second round pick out to trade Buddy Hield, that doesn't feel good either. So again, there are a lot of wrinkles to this that I think are yet to be ironed out.
Maybe that's where if we see a deal done and we see an extra second round pick in, that's because the Warriors know they have to recoup one from sending out one of those two other guys that we just talked about right there. Yeah. Hammer, is there, Kenny and I have been discussing, ways that this thing may wind up getting settled outside of just the qualifying offer. One of them being the Warriors. Now, there's going to be complications with this, but the Warriors could offer Kuminga the contract that they're offering him, that 2-year deal, that 2-year 45 or whatever it was, and change that second year to a player option versus a team option, allowing him to maintain some level of control when he ultimately gets traded in February.
Yeah, I don't see that as what they want to do, though. What they're hoping for. I
don't think they want to do any of this.
Yeah. No, you're right. I don't think they want to do any of this either. I think that they're very disappointed that they're not walking away from this with some humongous, boon. That they thought they were going to find a pot of gold here, and they're not finding any of that. And that's difficult. Like, look, if you're a franchise that spent a 6 pick on a player and he's played well, it's not like he's just horrible. You always want to try to get something for him, but let's be realistic here. It doesn't matter how old he is or anything else. Go back to the Marvin Bagley trade. I mean, the Kings dumped Marvin Bagley, who was the second pick in the draft, for what they thought was like just a throw in Trey Lyles, just to clear salary space. And Trey Lyles ended up being way better than they thought and fit in. But that doesn't change the fact that you traded the number 2 pick in the draft for a middle of the road reserve power forward center. And that's where I think the Warriors have to understand, like, that's where you're closer to that deal than you are to getting some unprotected first round pick and all this other stuff. And, if you can get a reasonable rotational player out of this, like, again, you can go 2 routes. You can go young player and expiring contract, and a draft pick, or you can go, a player like Malik Monk that, like, let's be honest here, Malik Monk would help the Golden State Warriors. Malik Monk would easily be their best free agent, their best acquisition this summer, even after they go and they do the things that they think they're going to do, whether it's Al Horford or Seth Curry or, Gary Payton II, like, whatever. Like, look, that's a lot. Like, giving up Malik Monk for the Kings is a lot. It just doesn't feel that way right now because, they've kind of pitched him and put him out there on the trade block. But like I continue to say, like, this deal is just so complicated, and you kind of feel for every side because this isn't normal operating business for the Sacramento Kings or for any other team in the league. And I think Tim Kawakami even said it in that piece. Like, look, if Jonathan Kuminga had his way, it would have been a Sacramento King a couple of weeks ago, and this thing would have been over. But that's just not the way it goes. And again, that's restricted free agency. I bless Keon Ellis's heart. I'm sure he's glad at this point he's not in this free agent market, because this is just ugly. It's horrible for all these guys that just have no market at all. And you would hope that they would, at least the teams that they're on, would give them reasonable offers to keep them in the fold. But there seems to be a hard line in the sand this summer that hasn't been there before.
James, if you were Jonathan Kuminga and representing Jonathan and Kuminga, what would you do in this situation? They're saying that they, aren't going to trade you to the place that you want to go to. Would you take the 2 years, $45 million deal with the team option, or would you play on the qualifying offer?
Yeah, I'd play on the qualifying offer. I'm taking away the power from the Golden State Warriors, because you got to remember, like, either way, if it's not a guaranteed 2-year deal, then I believe he loses his bird rights if he's traded. So, like, they're taking away any power that you have. And the only way to fight back is to take the qualifying offer, because then at least at the end of next summer, if you're Kuminga, at least at that point, the Warriors still can extend you. Like, they still have your Larry Bird rights. Mm-hmm. If you get traded mid-season right now, you lose your Larry Bird rights. Like, and that just means that when you go somewhere else, they can't extend you without either having cap space or, giving you like the mid-level exception. And that's not what they're looking for at all. The only way for him to make like the 63 or the 90 million, whatever it might be, depending on who you're listening to, the only way for that to happen is in a sign and trade here. Like, there is, or if the Brooklyn Nets just out of nowhere decide to change their mind and go out and sign Jonathan Kuminga to an offer sheet, right? That's the only ways to get to figure this out. So it's just really, like, for everybody involved, the Kings know that they need to speed up their rebuild, and sort of hit the nitro button on whatever they're trying to do here. Plus, they don't want to run it back. Scott Perry doesn't want to take over a team and then have the same exact roster from last season for all intent and purpose, so that's one thing. But then, like, every single person in this, like, sort of battle here kind of feels the same way. Kuminga, like, if he gets this whatever we're talking $45 million 2-year $45 million deal, the Warriors aren't going to have any money to go sign anybody. They're going to be in the luxury tax and approaching the first apron and be in trouble too. So, yeah, it's just like it's almost like a no-win situation for most people here. Or everybody wins, but everybody's got to take less than what they thought.
Do you, real quick, James, do you, you laid out a bunch of reasons why you wouldn't do it. Would your thought process change at all if they turn that team option into a player option for Kuminga?
I mean, no, I mean, maybe, because then you can control what happens there. Because again, if he gets traded, then he would at least be, I believe he'd be on a 2-year deal. And it would, I guess so. There's a possibility there that you might be able to get your bird rights back in some way, but I don't know. It's very strange. Like again, we're not usually faced with this situation. It's rare that somebody plays on the qualifying offer. I think that's only happened like once or twice, but it's even more rare that that you have a situation like this where there is zero cap space for anybody, and it's not just cap space. Like there's so many teams that are up against a luxury tax, or over the luxury tax, or up against the first apron, or over the first apron and approaching the second apron. Like there just is not a lot of money right now in the league, which is totally bizarre, is very foreign. And I've said this to you guys last week, even if he gets his deal done where he becomes a free agent next summer, it doesn't mean it's going to be any better. Like there might not be any cap space next summer either. And so he could be stuck in the same situation. So like if I'm him, I am really looking at that $63 million and saying, yeah, I really want to sign with the Kings, because at least that gives him 3 years of flexibility. And on top of that, I think they're talking about a player option for the 3rd year, and he become a free agent again at 24, 25. That's a pretty good deal for him.
Hey, Dan, can I ask both of you guys a question about this? What would be the benefit for the Warriors to have him signed on the qualifying offer?
I don't think there is one.
I don't. That's what I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
I don't think there is either.
It's a yeah.
But they keep going out there talking about
well because they want you to believe they want Jonathan Kuminga to play on their basketball team. They forget the trashing that they've done of him for the last year and a half. They want you to Men in Black that from your brain and pretend like they want Jonathan Kuminga in a Warriors uniform.
Outside of he's on your team next year, there's no benefit for the Warriors to have.
There's no benefit for either one of them.
No. But there is the possibility that at the end of this thing that you could trade him. So next summer. But you got to hope that he doesn't get hurt.
How do you trade him next summer?
Trade him on the after signing a qualifying offer, or signing that 2-year deal?
No, like if he goes into this year, but he comes out of it as an unrestricted free agent, that doesn't mean you can't sign and trade him.
Oh.
Yeah, you can still sign and trade him and help him go get wherever he wants to go. But if I'm at that point, if I'm the Kings, I'm just throwing my hands up in the air, because it's like there's a big difference between every year that he's in the league getting a 4th-year player versus getting a 5th-year player going into a 6th-year, and a player who once again will probably be stymied. And so there's always going to be this feeling that you don't know who he is, and that doesn't usually play out into your 5th, 6th, 7th year, where teams are still like, hey, we still don't know who this kid is. Well, if you don't know who he is by now, you know who he is.
This is I'll preface this with, this is probably a bit of an unfair question, but if Aaron Turner, who is Jonathan Kuminga's agent, was Jeff Schwartz or Rich Paul, would we be here?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know what his client list is. I haven't looked.
I don't know his name very well, so that leads me to believe it's not a steep list.
What's his name?
Aaron Turner. The fact that you, who have covered this league for a decade and a half, like after what's his like, yeah, like I just wonder, and because I I think there's always a fear with qualifying offers sometimes of burning an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't have a client list, maybe you're not really, if you're Mike Dunleavy Jr., you're Joe Lacob, like, okay, we're burning this guy. And it's like, it's horrible, but it's the game too.
Right.
And I every time I heard Aaron Turner's name, I started to think this, like, would this happen if Rich Paul was his agent? Would this happen if Jeff Schwartz was his agent? Would this happen if someone with a client list of upwards of a couple $1 billion would they face the same challenges that this man's facing?
Yeah, Terry Rozier is his next biggest client.
That's tough.
Yeah,
well, I mean, hey, salute to my man,
tough.
but that's pretty tough.
Yeah, and after that, it's Trey Mann. He's got
The Warriors
Josh,
have no fear in dealing with this man.
No,
You can't burn Rich Paul. You can't burn Jeff Schwartz. You can't burn Bill Duffy. You can't burn those guys. If your second biggest client is Terry Rozier, you never have to deal with that man again.
Yeah. No, this is a bad situation, man. Like, and I didn't even think about that part of it. Like, I don't know. Like, someone says that he's a clown. I don't know that he's a clown. He's just a guy with a whole bunch of clients, but a lot of them are either out of the league or they're like at the end of a bench. And that's, there are a lot of agents like this. But yeah, you're probably right. If we're looking at a Rich Paul situation or some of the big guys, no, there is a fear of retribution. There is. I mean, that's, who was it this offseason that had an age? Oh, the number 5 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? Like, yeah, you're just absolutely ruining a kid's early part of his career. And, like, you don't get a bunch of opportunities. If you have a really, really rough go in Utah for 2 years and you don't look like a basketball player at all, which they have a lot of say in, man, it's tough to recover. It's tough to move on from that. And so, like, it's just damaging these guys. And again, if you're Kuminga, the last thing you want to do is basically walk away from, the equivalent of like $12 million extra dollars this year if he signed the Kings deal. 12 million this year and then guaranteed money next year and guaranteed money the year after that. Like, you don't know what kind of money you're going to get. You plan that is the one downfall of the qualifying offer. You plan the qualifying offer, blow out your knee, pop your Achilles, do something, or you're just buried on the bench and they leave you there the entire season. Like, that $7.8 million might be the most you get the rest of your career. You don't know. And we can say, oh, well, he'll get his money next year. It's like, okay, I can show you 5 million ways in which that hasn't happened for other players. I mean, we don't have to look any further than Dennis Schroeder, who's still trying to recover from the 4-year, $80 million contract he walked away from, or $90 million that he walked away from the Lakers. And that was 6 years ago. Yeah, it's tough.
Lindsey Wells had a famous one here in Sacramento. I think low key Matt Barnes had one in Dallas where Cuban offered him a ton of money and he got bad advice.
Yeah.
Latrell Sprewell. I mean,
Gotta feed his kids, man.
His family.
Never got another contract in the league. Like,
could be a variety of reasons for that, but he does have to feed his kids.
He does.
I can relate, but I guess we got to take care of Kevin first.
This list is rough.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough. The list of clients that he has.
I do think this stuff matters, though. I'm not trying to make a talking point out of nothing. Like, I think this stuff matters.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault. He's just in a tough spot. And the Warriors can approach this like, yeah, cool, bro. We don't care. You can't, we don't care, Rich Paul. You can't, we don't care, Jeff Schwartz and Bill Duffy and Aaron Goodwin. You can't do that with these guys.
Right.
But you can do it with some. And I feel like that's what they might be doing.
Yeah. You got to play the game. And they're just put in a situation where there isn't really a game to play here.
That's also why I think guys switch agents. Like, it's not falling out. It's not working hard enough, not doing anything. It's like when I get into a true fist fight of a negotiation, can they afford to step away from my current agent? Like, I don't think that he was ever going to be faced with this, but was it Chris Gaston, like De'Aaron's guy? If push came to shove, nobody's, again, with all due respect to my man, no one's scared of him.
Right.
You can't treat Rich Paul the same way you treat Chris Gaston. And so it just puts that player in a tough spot.
Yep.
And that's the world that Jonathan Kuminga is living in right now. He's in a tough spot. You mentioned Ace Bailey a couple of minutes ago, Hammer. Ace Bailey is going to learn these lessons in time, man. You're going to need someone with a little bit more cachet, a little bit more power to him. As Kenny makes faces at the camera, we're going to come back. We're going to talk more with our Kings insider from the Insiders, our man James Ham, here with D'Lo and KC on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
Did you guys know? Anybody want to take a guess? We are, what is this? Let's see. 111 games into the baseball season.
Okay.
Anybody want to take a guess on either the Rockies' record or how many games under 500 they are?
How many games have been played? 111, you said?
111 games.
Oh. 55.
55 under 500.
Mm-hmm.
Are they at less than? I'm going to go. They're at 38 wins.
Yeah, you're probably good. Well, you're probably
I'll go
right
35
there.
and 76.
35 and 76. You said
That's the
35
record.
wins. You say 38.
Yep.
James
Said 55 under. I don't know the math on that.
Yeah, I don't know it either.
They're at 30 wins.
3-0?
30 wins. They are 51 games under 500.
It's a point for me. Count it.
What?
Wait, no.
Well, that's fine. It's
right.
yours.
You said 51, right?
Yeah, 51 games under 500. It got a
I
little
said 55. That's closer,
Well,
isn't it?
because they gave win totals and you gave games under 500.
James is playing in a different league right now.
And what did they say win total wise? What's Jesse? What'd you say?
I said 35.
35 and what?
Well, see, we didn't do the math on that.
35 and
that'd be 46 games under 500 because they're at 30 right now.
I'm closer.
Yeah, 46 games under 500.
Yeah. I'm 4 games off. Yeah.
The next worst record in baseball is the White Sox at 42 wins.
I'm honestly surprised I got that many.
Me too.
Mhm.
The Rockies just got to 30. They won on Saturday to get to 30. There's no other team below 42. They just got to 30.
That's bad.
This is terrible.
That's when there's like 20 games left in an NBA season and the team is in single digits. They're like 8. You're like, oh no.
Well, I was gonna see if they were gonna break the record. They're not beating the 1899 Cleveland Spiders.
18. Oh, there's Cleveland again. Great. Another 2 years of Jesse disrespect.
20.
No one wants this show to end more than the people of Cleveland.
20.
Do they even have internet out there?
We'll do the modern era though. The White Sox of last year went 41 and 121. Do the Rockies get 11 more wins this year or 12? Took them this long to get 30.
Do they play the Giants at all this season?
That sounds like a shot.
That's a good
It was.
I think they do. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say they get 39 wins.
Played this game with the Mavericks at the end of last season. I think they hit the number right.
Back here with James talking about bad baseball teams, which
Shout
is
out
a
to the
refreshing
Rockies.
change from talking about bad basketball teams.
Yeah.
I don't think the Kings are bad. They're frustrating as hell, but they're not bad. Of course, we would all feel like, hey, man, I think that we would feel like the Kings are doing something right. Something, they're taking a good step. We said earlier, Hammer, Scott Perry's getting a lot of praise for the way he's handling this situation, that he doesn't have to rush, and he could be extremely patient. And if it doesn't work out, I think Scott Perry would be completely fine with that. But he sees Jonathan Kuminga as a potential, piece to build that sustainable winner that he's talking about. And of course, it would be the Golden State Warriors that are in the way of all of this happening. They are in the way of everything.
Always.
Always. Yeah, like, look, Scott is getting like a lot of positive feedback for handling this thing the way that he's handled it. But I'll keep saying this, like, and this isn't a dig. Like, look, if this thing goes, if it just stays as status quo right now and they don't ever get the deal done, like, what's the difference between this and Pascal Siakam trade? What's the difference between this and the Cam Johnson trade, or the OG Anunoby trade, or any of the other trades that didn't happen? And the answer is that it's not any different. At the end of the day, you didn't get the player that you wanted. And so I think that that's, like, again, we can praise the patience and everything else, but we also know that at a certain point, like, it does cost something to get something in the NBA. And, so the Kings, again, if they're going to ask the Warriors to take on 3 years of Malik Monk, that's going to cost something. And I know people are like, oh, Malik Monk's a better player than Jonathan Kuminga. It's like, yeah, but that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about one person trying to trade in a used car and trying to get a new car out of it. And that's, so yeah, like, Malik Monk has value. I totally agree. And I actually think Malik Monk's an exceptional player, but you're still looking at a team who's asking another team to take on 3 years and almost $60 million when, to get back a player at 3 years and $63 million, like almost a straight swap. And, that's not like an easy ask at the NBA. So, yeah.
So
The one good thing, sorry, Kings don't really have any competition in this. Like, Phoenix can't seriously, I mean, again, unless they did it to be spiteful, like, they're not getting better with Phoenix unless Phoenix somehow, for some reason, and I absolutely do not believe that they would do this given the offseason that they just had, offered a bunch of draft picks. Like, they
don't have any.
Like, yeah, right. So it feels like this really just comes down to whether they can get a deal done with Sacramento or not.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, the Suns literally they have 2 second-round picks. That's it. They don't have access to any of their other draft picks at all. They can't trade a first at all. So again, that's where I think the Kings are sitting here holding their ground and saying, look, we've got, we're offering you a first-round pick where no one else is. But at the same time, like, look, I also think that, like, you have to understand that they're going to have to trade another player to make this work. And that's going to cost something. So again, if you want to have a lottery protected first round pick, if that's what you're offering, or say a top 10 protected first round pick, that to me, that's going to have a certain amount of value versus an unprotected pick. The Warriors want unprotected. You want this, like, throw in a second to try to balance it out. And so if they do have to give up a second round pick to move off of a Buddy Hield or a Moses Moody, at least they have something to offer, and it's not taking away from whatever little bit they get from Kuminga.
James, do you think all this talk is posturing by the Warriors, and they're still willing to make a deal, and they're looking to make a deal? They're just trying to sweeten the pot a little bit, or do you believe them when they talk to Kawakami or Amick or all this other stuff? And yeah, we're going to have them on the Jonathan Kuminga on the roster when the season starts.
Well, I mean, I think both can be true. Like, you can be saying no right now and saying we're done dealing, and then the offer gets a little bit better, or even just the circumstance changes, and you're like, man, we got other things we need to do. we can't keep going down this path where we're just spinning our tires. So I definitely think that, like there's enough information that's been out there that this deal is close, but that doesn't mean it ever gets done. Again, I don't know, like when it comes to what Kawakami knows versus what Amick knows, like we all in this business, we talk to different people, right? And we value what's happening, what's being said from each of those sources differently. And for me, you're going to have agent sources in this deal. You're going to have team sources in this deal. Some people have ownership sources in this deal. And so there's all kinds of different ways in which we're getting information, which is probably what makes this, like, again, such a unique transaction.
Well, what's funny, Hammer, is every time it feels like we're getting close, a day or two later, a report comes out from a reporter that we haven't heard from one single time, and suddenly we get further away.
Yeah. Well,
Tim Kawakami created a gulf in this deal this morning, whereas on Friday it was like, yeah, maybe it really is just down to a staring contest. Tim Kawakami said, no, not today. It's nothing, bitch.
Well, that, and I mean, like, Tim Kawakami probably needs to do what Amick did, and that is go to Hawaii for 11 days, which is part of his story. It's like
all of us should go to Hawaii.
Just get away. Just get away. Yeah, I mean, like, look, this is
Hammer with the little straw hat on and the sunblock on his nose. Like, we could do that.
Yeah, we could all just figure it out. Yeah, I'd wear sleeves all the time, just make sure I don't get
rash guard. It's fine.
Yeah, skin cancer. Yeah. Like, look, again, like at some point something's gonna break here, and I don't believe any of the posturing that's going on right now from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're hardlining. The Kings are hardlining right now, and that might be how they hold. And they might say, okay, well, we're willing to throw away the deal and move on. But I think everybody knows, like, you got Russell Westbrook just waiting out there in the wings, ready to be signed. And there's a reason why you have Russell Westbrook waiting out in the wings, ready to be signed. It's because he's been told that there's a chance that if things go this way and this way, that he'll be signed. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think it's like, this isn't as complicated as it looks, but it's still super complicated as far as NBA transactions go.
Can the Kings or the Warriors move on to the Russell Westbrooks, the Anthony Meltons, Al Horford? Can they move on without this being resolved in a way that gets Kuminga off the Warriors and I guess Malik off of the Kings?
Probably not. Yeah, I mean, especially the Kings. I don't think the Kings can go out and sign anybody. I mean, why would you sign Russell Westbrook if you've got two guys that can play 28 to 30 minutes a game at the point guard spot, and Monk and Schroeder?
To make me happy, James.
I know.
Sign him to make me happy.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
I'll buy a jersey.
Yeah.
City edition, D-Lo.
There you go. Yeah. Hey, look, I think that there is, like, this is holding up a lot of things and a lot of people's lives, but I think everybody also kind of has a wink, wink, nod, nod. They know what's going on, and this thing will settle itself, like, hopefully quickly. And once you get that figured out, like, you can move on to bigger and better things.
James, the one thing I've given up on is quickly. I don't think it is.
No, that's true, because October 1st is a long ways away.
So the true push to shove date might be whatever the August date is. That's 6 months from
trade deadline.
Yeah, because that could just be the moment where the Warriors are like, we don't want him here. We don't want him in this lock. All right, fine. Like, we'll do it. Like, I mean, of course, it could stretch to October, but if you get past whatever that 6 month date is to the trade deadline, and that 2-year offer is out there, and you can't, you wind up in a position where you can't trade him, then you have to, because you have to pull that offer. You have to make it clear that offer is not out there anymore, because then if he signs it, I guess you have the off season. But if I'm Kuminga, as we talked about earlier, I'm not touching that. So the true push come to shove date might be next month.
Well, no, I mean, if there is, I'm going to have to look, because the whole 6 month rule is super complex, but it's usually anybody who gets more than 20% raise, whether it's rookie scale extension or it's another extension, that it falls under that category of like it's got to be 6 months. But I'm gonna have to look it up.
But
Again,
Kuminga would get that, right?
yeah, we have to make sure. I have to make sure. I have to go through the salary cap stuff with like a fine tooth comb. There's a bunch of ways in which
I'm
this
not doing
happens and
it.
it doesn't. Yeah, and so and if we're looking at the 6 months, so September, October, November, December, January, February, we're talking a couple of days. That's if there is a 6 month window.
Mm.
I mean, that's where we're at right now. It would be a couple of days, because the trade deadline is like February 7th, something like that. I don't know.
Do you believe the reports about the Kings, that they would like Jonathan Kuminga, but not really pressed to go after Jonathan Kuminga, and they're 100% willing to walk away? Or do you think they are doing some posturing and they really want to add him to their franchise?
Well, like, look, we keep talking about 2027, right? We keep saying, oh, well, like just like 2027 might be the moment where you can do something different. And there's a way to speed that up. Again, I think that this would be a domino situation here that we're talking about. Like, it's possible that DeMar DeRozan sticks around, if you were able to land Kuminga, but it's also possible that you make some other move to try to move on from him. So it's just tough because I think this is one of those. Scott Perry would love to reset this thing quickly, but he's run into a brick wall again and again and again. And that's why he's floated this idea of like it might be 2027, or the team has floated this idea, like whoever it is that you want to listen to, right? But that doesn't mean that it has to be 2027. Like, if there's a way to get this thing done quicker, sure. They would love to reset. And like, look, let's just say you do get Kuminga. Like, there are a couple of different ways that this could go, but what if Kuminga is everything that he thinks he is? What if he comes out and he's averaging 25 and 8, and all of a sudden you have a frontline NBA like scorer to go alongside with Keegan Murray and Domantas Sabonis, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, he's 22. Like, we just hit a pot of gold here. This is awesome. And now you can start building from, a considerably younger age. And so I think that this could change the outcome of, really it's, always talk about the Jerry Reynoldsism. If you've got a 5-year plan in the NBA, you have no plan at all. Like, realistically, if you have a 6-month plan in the NBA, you have no plan at all. You have to be willing to shake and move. And, if something becomes available, you got to try your best to like clear up space or go get a pick or whatever it is that gets a deal done. And that's where we're kind of at this point. Like, yeah, I think it would be a bummer for the Kings if they didn't get this done, but I don't think it would be the end all be all either. It's just a really nice young player at a reasonable rate and with a ton of upside that you're willing to take a gamble on.
By the way, that 6-month marker is Wednesday.
So if they the way we understand it right now, unless there's something hidden in there, if they don't sign him before Wednesday, they can't trade him.
They wouldn't be able to trade him during the NBA season. They wouldn't be able to trade him before February. Now, they could obviously trade him after the season because of the team option,
Right.
but they wouldn't be able to trade him before February's trade deadline if the 6-month rule is in place, which again, James was close. Trade deadline is February 6th. August 6th is Wednesday. So never mind.
Yeah, we're going to have to look at that very closely. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
go through because it's a complicated set of rules, and every single player is in almost like a different bucket. And so you got to kind of look and see what it is. But yeah, man, this is like, it's not the easiest way that any team is approaching this. But I also think it's kind of why it's ramping up right now, because at a minimum, it's got to, even if it was a December 15th deadline for signing him this offseason, that's a whole nother situation. There's also the January 15th deadline that we dealt with last year where Doug McDermott couldn't be traded until January 15th, but then his contract wasn't guaranteed until like right before that. And you had to guarantee his contract if you were going to trade him. Like, there's all kinds of mechanisms in place here that we haven't got to.
Well, what a relief that the Kings re-signed Doug McDermott. So that way, when the Kings are down 36, they can put him in a game. He can hit 4 or 5 threes in a row. Then they'll be down by 25. So it's good.
That's another question. We haven't figured out like if Doug McDermott got a fully guaranteed deal or if it's like last year's deal or was like I think it's 500 or 750,000 until January. I'd have to look.
I sure hope.
If I'm being perfectly honest, that is a question I have not asked myself.
Yeah.
I saw that alert pop up and just thought, huh. All right.
All right.
Yeah,
Why?
keep it moving.
Nah, never. But don't answer that. It's okay.
It's fine. Doug McDermott.
Just keep on moving. I like my boy Doug McDermott, so good for him.
No, if we just operate under the assumption that this team is what we see in front of us right now, we're watching Neek and Max this offseason, right? We're watching the development of Keegan. We're watching to see how Zach LaVine fits in a full season with Sacramento, perhaps DeRozan's last season with Sacramento. We're changing I think that was kind of the approach everyone had. Mm-hmm. And then the Kuminga thing started to gain like some traction. And it was like, oh, this is a different building mechanism that wasn't here before. And you'd start evaluating things a little bit different if Kuminga's here. Now I think we're just back where we were a couple of months ago. And you're extremely pessimistic in that view, or you're just like, yeah, let's see what happens. I'm of the, let's see what happens.
I'm of the opinion that those guys aren't going to play that much until we get to, the trade deadline or after the trade deadline. Like Neek will probably play. He'll be in the rotation as long as you haven't made some other move. But like all of it, I mean, it's possible. It's possible those guys will play. But I also think that, you're a GM who took over a team. You're a coach that's in your rookie season. Like the mandate here is going to be to make the playoffs. It's going to be a good team. It's not just going to throw your hands up in the air and say, hey, we're going to be bad for 2 years. I mean, and if the mandate was just to be bad for 2 years, then you didn't go out and sign Dennis Schroeder to a contract. That's just not what you would have done. You would have gone out and even, I know this sounds even sacrilegious because I know how much you love Russell Westbrook, but you would have just signed Russell Westbrook to the minimum and said, okay, like we're going to get by with a combination of Malik Monk and Russell Westbrook as our point guards, and we're going to let it see where it goes.
Also, it may not matter because they may not be talented enough, but I think all these guys that are going to be here at the very least early in the season are playing to win games. Like they're going to be playing to win. So because of that, I don't know if we ever get to the point where it's just throw the kids in there and see what they can do. Because we've talked about it ad nauseum. I think there's talent on here, and if these guys are locked in, willing to play hard, and they're talented enough to win a good amount of games, where I don't know if we get to the point where it's just the young guys out there.
Mm-hmm.
What did they finish last season? 7-13 in the last 20, something like that. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. If it's not working, it's not going to work. You're just going to, so that's when you're going to look at, hey, can we get this player, that player extra time and see if we can develop them?
Great, James. I'm with you though. I don't think that happens. Mm-hmm. I think DeMar, LaVine, Keegan, until otherwise told, Malik, I think those guys will maintain a certain level of competitiveness. I hear you, James, though, as I think something I just feel like they were kind of like off at the end of last year. Yeah, they were never
coaches.
They were never really on. But I think they were maybe, I don't want to say they were done with the season because I don't think they went into that playing game thinking they were done with the season. They played like it, but I don't think they went into it thinking they were done for the season. It just felt like at that point, maybe they were trying to get to the finish line. Not a good excuse, not trying to bail them out, but I don't think that last stretch is indicative of the talent on the team.
Yeah, and they had injuries. the last 20 games of the season, you had injuries too. So, I mean, these things happen. Last year, it finished like so many other seasons that I've watched finish for Sacramento. It's just you didn't have a ton of young players to throw out there, and you're still competing. I mean, it didn't look good, but I mean, they did make the play-in, and they did get thumped in the play-in, but they actually made it, where a couple other teams didn't. So you kind of look at them and say, okay, at least they tried to keep fighting, but I think that's worse when you didn't go young, but you still finished like not with a great finish. You kind of faded hard at the end, and it wasn't because you played a bunch of young guys and just tried to get through. You just played your guys, and you had some struggles, and you didn't win games.
Hammer, tell me if this sounds correct. If Jonathan Kuminga signs a 2-year deal with the Warriors with a team option on the second year, he would be eligible to be traded starting January 15th. This is because the team option on the second year would allow the acquiring team to potentially decline it and extend Kuminga, making the contract tradable. That is according to ESPN and the AI overview that I received from Google.
I'm not looking in AI overview and taking it at face value. Yeah, this is a lot more complicated than what that sounds like that's looking up.
I'll give Peyton in the chat a little credit, and hopefully you're not chatty housing your boy. But he says
that goes great.
Says the 6-month marker isn't in play because Kuminga would extend on a contract less than 3 years. No 6-month rule. However, a poison pill provision would exist.
A poison pill
we'll just
provision.
let James comb the entire collective bargaining agreement to determine the answer.
Yeah, because like the poison
I
pill.
want a full report back, James.
Yeah, if the poison pill's in place, then what else does that mean? Like, and there's something about the non-guaranteed nature of that contract that also makes it trouble where they can't trade him. Like he would have to waive the no trade clause, and he's waiving the no trade clause because he would lose his Larry Bird rights.
But why would he have the no trade clause? He only has the no trade clause in the qualifying offer.
No, he has it in a qualifying offer, and he also has it if they give him a 1-year contract. So they can't give him a 1-year contract or the qualifying offer. And so that's why if you hear them giving him a 2-year deal, but the second year is a team option, that's non-guaranteed. And that's why the Warriors want him to sign the other deal. So
he would, in a 2-year deal, he would have a no trade clause potentially.
If it was a full 2-year deal, yes. Well, no, if it's a 2-year deal with the second year as a team option, or even as a player option, like it doesn't matter.
That's why we kept getting.
I'm more confused.
That no trade.
So he does or doesn't?
He does. If it's a 2-year deal, he does.
Regardless of the options.
Mm-hmm. But if it's a 2-year deal, he does have he should have a trade clause if there are options. If the second year is an option, got me?
Gotcha.
So if it's a standard 2-year deal,
if there's an option either way, he does. If it's just a straight 2-year guaranteed, no option, no trade clause.
No trade clause. Yeah.
But if there's options,
no trade clause. No.
If there's options,
so double negative.
No trade clause. Options either way.
He does not have a no trade clause if he signs a 2-year deal. Yeah. And if he signs a 3-year deal, he'd have full Larry Bird rights going out. Like if he does a sign and trade with the Kings, he'd have full Larry Bird rights, even if he has a player option after year 2, going into year 3.
Whatever, man. I don't care anymore. This is the perfect time to crack open this bottle of 755 from Baker Family Wines. You can head over to bakerfamilywines.com right now. You need to join Dusty's Tasting Room.
Right.
Find out about exclusive releases, tasting room specials, exclusive releases like this 755 Cabernet that I'm holding right here. Cab is my bag. It is my absolute favorite wine right now. It's got one of the boldest, richest flavors. I think of all of the reds out there, and certainly has the boldest, richest flavor in all of the Baker Family Wines reds. But whatever your preference on wine is, Dusty Baker has mastered it. That's what he does. That's why he's a Hall of Fame manager. That's why he's going to be a Hall of Fame winemaker as well. These small lot wines are incredible, and they're made right here in West Sacramento. You can visit the tasting room in West Sacramento right now if you want to. Head over to bakerfamilywines.com to find out more. I'm going to crack this open because James gives me a headache every time he talks about the collective bargaining agreement. So hopefully we'll see you here tomorrow on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
Adios, D-Lo.